everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, normally this would be the part where I'd say major spoiler alert ahead, but in preparation for the new Ghostbusters Frozen Empire movie, we are going back and watching all of the previous Ghostbusters. So without further ado, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
Joining with me to break down our favorite moments from Ghostbusters Afterlife, it's Jon Jon Rico!
Once again, there is no Rico, only Zuul.
Oh, Zuul.
Did it again.
You did it again.
Did it again.
It's the perfect sequel.
Yes. Yeah, it's more of a sequel than the last movie.
That's what I'm saying. It fits perfect.
Dang it. Yeah,
we even got mini Stay Puft Marshmallow Men that they've taken over my studio space.
That was definitely a scene that happened.
That was one of your favorite scenes.
It was disturbing a little bit.
They were all they were like happy tree friends. Have you ever seen
that? They were
that?
Happily blending themselves, which is a little... Yeah.
Have you ever watched the cartoon series Happy Tree Friends?
Never.
That's where they're all like getting killed and stuff. It's like...
Oh, jeez.
We'll throw to a clip of that. Woo! But anyway, so I teased this when we were recapping Ghostbusters 2, that I had a really cool, fun, personal experience with Ghostbusters Afterlife. I wasn't in the movie. That would have been like the ultimate fan experience if I could have been part of the movie.
Oh, shit.
I almost said something that you need to bleep out. Anyway, no, but I've been lucky enough to attend New York City Comic Con multiple times. For the show, for Poppin' Off, for that recap show, I've been able to go a couple times. And I've never actually had this experience where like I went to a panel and got to ask questions and stuff like that to the cast and crew and stuff like that. But when it was 2021 and they were the lead up to the movie, so they had a Ghostbusters panel, and I was like, sure as hell I'm going to this, even if it's just the director. I would love to sit there with a bunch of Ghostbusters fans and just hear about the movie before it comes out. And then I proceeded to freak out with the new friends I had just made at Comic-Con, like Ghostbusters while we were standing in line, friends. And the entire cast comes out, minus Paul Rudd. He was somewhere else. They apologized because he was supposed to be there as a surprise, and he ended up not making it or something like that. I know. Literally everyone else was there. But yeah, so Jason Reitman, Ivan Reitman was, I think, there too. But Jason Reitman was like given a big, discussion about the movie and how like they really wanted to, bring people back to the movies. And they said like, this is a movie to enjoy with a big group of people like that are really like enjoy Ghostbusters and that are really, they really want to be together and watch this movie. And he goes, you know what? That's why this is the perfect place. We're just we're not gonna hold off any longer. And they just proceeded. We thought they were gonna show us like some content of the movie, like some deleted scenes or some bonus stuff. They proceeded, they proceeded to show the entire movie. Yep. And this is like a month and a half early before it came out. I'm sitting there with, like I said, the two new friends I had made in line, and we're just the whole time we're sitting there going, they're not going to play the whole movie, right? Like this isn't happening, really, right? This doesn't happen at New York City Comic Con. Like this kind of thing happens at San Diego Comic Con, but this doesn't happen at New York City Comic Con. We watched the entire movie with the cast and crew and director of Ghostbusters Afterlife. And then even after it was over, they came out and were like, what'd you guys think? And just everybody like erupted and went crazy. Craziest thing that's ever happened to me at New York City Comic Con. So I've went multiple years. That was intense. It was so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I
it's a pretty cool memory to have because Ivan Reitman passed a few months later too. So like he got to watch the movie with the OG director and his son, and It's a great tribute movie too as well. So I
Right.
would say so. Yeah, that's a pretty cool moment to have.
Yeah, and they were talking about how, like, Ivan Reitman was there during a lot of the filming. Like, his son, Jason Reitman, was,
I think he actually portrayed Egon in like physical
oh, he
form.
did.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
Awesome. I did not know that. That's a fun fact that I didn't know.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, his dad was there, kind of, saying like, well, I would have done this in the original, like when we were doing this stuff, like, you know what I mean? Like, so it was really cool that we had two generations of directors working on the same movie together, and kind of at least, telling him, like, this is how this character was written, this is how this would behave, type of thing. So it was really cool on that front, and just hearing kind of stories and stuff like that too. But yeah, I mean, I could talk about that for forever, but I had to sit on like all of the details of the movie for like a month and a half. And then I proceeded to go see it again with like some friends and stuff like that after, like, when it actually came out. But yeah, I will never forget that experience. I'm never going to have that experience again for a Ghostbusters movie, I'm assuming. But the other thing I have to say is, it's no surprise that I really like, some screen accurate movie props and stuff like that. I mean, I have,
Yeah, very, very
yeah,
same.
yeah. I have the Ghostbusters proton pack behind me. This is actually from Afterlife. It's an Afterlife proton pack. I have Egon's neuro wand also, and I mean, I have the Ghostbusters trap also. But what I'm really wondering, because at this point, it's been a couple years, a good couple of years. Why don't we have the Ghostbusters trap, like the RC car? Like, immediately when I saw that in the movie, I was like, that's going to be something that's going to come out. I was like, how much money do I have to start putting aside for when this comes out? Nothing. It's never come out. There's never been a making of it.
Yeah, missed opportunity there.
I know, right? I've shelled out a decent amount of money for movie props, and I would not balk at a reasonable price for a workable RC car with a regular trap in it. Mattel, or
There
who
you
makes
go.
stuff now?
I don't
Hasbro.
even know. Yeah.
Hasbro.
Who's in charge of the RC car world now? I don't even know.
I don't.
That's a whole nother world.
I mean, I feel like they could have made a partnership with an RC car and just like somehow embedded the trap in there. But yeah, I mean, look, this movie was a lot of fun, and I think what we were saying I can't remember if we were saying it in the retro recap for the original or for the second one. But I think the plot into this works perfectly because that much time has passed. Whereas with the second one, we had the downfall of the Ghostbusters, and where they kind of had to, get the band back together and rise up again. That didn't feel like a lot of time had passed. And that was kind of one of the initial complaints from Ghostbusters 1 to 2 was that felt like they were just making an excuse to be able to have the events happen again.
Right.
But this, I feel like enough real life time has passed to where they could make it like an accurate amount of time had passed in the movie world and the real world, where that plot where, a lot of people really
earned.
Right. Where a lot of people did really forget about the Ghostbusters, and they did really no one was really like sure if it really ever happened, because we're talking about, the two generations from Ghostbusters, basically.
Yeah.
Like from those events, because we're talking about Egon's grandchildren type of thing. So like enough has passed where it's just like myth at that point type of thing. And so I really feel like that really played very well into the events and the plot, and being that it's like something new that these characters are discovering, basically, about their family and about ghosts in general type of thing. And we even got an in-universe explanation for why these events were happening at different times, and there would be a very light activity in between that type of thing with the carvings on the walls with the different dates and stuff like that. So
right.
We got a lot of tracks covered in this. But Rico, what were some of your initial impressions of Ghostbusters Afterlife? Because this was your first time watching this. This was not a retro recap for you. So
yeah, this is my first time watching this movie. It's a fun movie for sure. It definitely is a great like modern day Ghostbusters movie. It's like the effects of today mixed with they do a really good job of mixing practical and CG effects in this, like they did in the past movies. And everything about this just feels like a massive love letter to Ghostbusters because obviously it's made by the son of the original director, Jason Reitman, who's also a really great filmmaker just in general. And you can tell you like every time every frame of this movie just feels like it's made for Ghostbusters fans, when there's just constant either nostalgia trips or Easter eggs harkening back to the old movies. I really love that we get our a little glimpse of the commercial again. I love bringing up the commercials every single time. I love when she kind of starts learning more about Egon's past, and she looks up the commercials online because why wouldn't a kid do that these days, right? And yeah, so great. Like we were saying last time with Ghostbusters 2, like blending in the old with the new in a way that works, and like I said, feels earned, and I think they did a really good job with that. And it's also just a great tribute to Harold Ramis too, as well. I thought that was a really nice little touching tribute there at the end of the movie. I thought, and I really love the way they incorporated his character into the story, given how long he's been gone. They had to find a way to work him in there, of course, somehow, and making his family kind of like the center of the story. I think works, in my opinion. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this movie, and there's a lot of fun performances in it as well. And there's some stuff, there's a couple of things in there that I was like, huh, interesting. Like I talked about before, the redesign for Gozer has always been very interesting for me. But I think it's handled pretty well for the most part, and it just feels like bigger scale because of the way the effects work for modern day. It just feels like a modern, like almost like a superhero movie, but Ghostbusters. I would say it feels like an origin story for a new team, and they're just doing some action movie stuff, and it feels it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads right into my big takeaway. So would you like to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to kick this off. And exactly what you were saying. I mean, one thing that I absolutely 110% cannot say enough that I absolutely appreciated was just the level of detail in callbacks and in Easter eggs that they had in there. Like it was incredible. You could sit there and watch. I mean, I feel like every time I've rewatched it, I've caught different stuff. One of the I guess most obvious to me was the hidden lab. I say most obvious, but it's only because like I always giggled at the original Ghostbusters scene when Egon says,
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
To Janine. And so when we got that Easter egg, we're in the secret lab of Egon at the farmhouse, and we have a collection of spores, mold, and fungus like there. Like it was one of those things where it's just like I can't believe they have that here. Like of all of like the callbacks that they could have, it's one line in the original movie that they have. But I mean, just like you said, I think there's just so much in this movie like that is a nostalgia dump, but it's done in a way that like I feel like there are movies that do that and work purely off of nostalgia, and that's it. And then there are movies that work by incorporating the nostalgia, but also making you kind of enjoy the movie. It's a good movie in and of itself, also type of thing. And I mean, I think we also get that with Spider-Man: No Way Home, where we get a lot of nostalgia by bringing back the older villains and bringing back the other Peter Parkers and stuff like that.
Yeah. There was a time during that time of film that a lot of franchises were leaning on nostalgia to kind of bring back their older audiences, and this is definitely one of those cases for sure.
Right. But I think when done well, it can make it can revitalize a franchise. In this sense, I think they did this very well, and that's why I mean, obviously, we know that there's a new Ghostbusters movie coming out in March. So it worked. At least it worked enough that, that we got another one. But
that's compared to the 2016 version that we didn't get a sequel to for the same reason, for that very reason, right? Yeah.
But yeah, I think they've put together this universe that they took from the original and built off of it in a good way. Where now, as long as this next one does for Frozen Empire, as long as that one does decent to good. Like we could have, like I said, we could have a series. We could get, multiple other movies. They could open this up to different teams being around and stuff like that. Like it's just, I just feel like they did this very well. And I'm hoping that they continue to do it very well. Like I said, we're recording this a month before the new movie comes out. I'm very hopeful for that. But yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed rewatching. I've probably rewatched this maybe 8 to 10 times at this point and enjoyed it like every single time.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about some of the new characters. I find it a little hard to almost like root for them at times. I just kind of felt like either they just weren't like very likable on screen, like just the way the characters came across to me. I wasn't given like a particular reason to like root for them, and there's no real major like character arcs for anyone else other than maybe for Callie, the mom. Obviously because she has her issues with Egon in the movie, and then there's that great scene where she kind of sees Egon's lab and kind of notices that he was actually keeping tabs on her all along, and it wasn't really like this idea that she had in her head that
Right.
you can give a crap about her, right? And so that part I really do liked a lot. But I'd say the most likable characters in the movie for me are Podcast and Mr. Gary Gruberson himself, Paul Rudd, which again, one of the most ridiculous names I've ever heard for a movie character, but it just works for some reason. And I like the way they handle his character too, because it's almost like he's like the teacher from Stranger Things, but mixed in with also being like a Ghostbusters fan. So he's kind of like I would say the audience member.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, he's us.
He's the character that's supposed to be us, right? And of course, Podcast is just kind of like the comedic relief kid of the group, where he's just like talking about his, the one thing I really did love was the fact that Ray is his. Yeah, that's to me was like, okay, perfect. That gave him all the validation that he needed. And there's some really great moments between the new and the old cast that I really do like a lot.
Exactly like what you were talking about. Where Paul Rudd's character is the audience, which means like us and everyone, all Ghostbusters fans, because he immediately like goes, "Oh, cool trap replica." Podcast is us, like because I remember when him and Phoebe are talking, and she goes, "Oh, yeah, where can I listen to your podcast?" And he just hands her a flash drive with all of his episodes on it, and he goes, "It I think I really hit a good stride at episode 46." And like I just was like, I've had conversations like that with Popping Off and that recap show where I'm like, yeah, we've done 200 episodes. I think we're really starting to hit that real good spot. Like, so I was just like, podcast is you and me. Like,
yeah.
So it's perfect when we find out the one subscriber is Ray. Because look, everyone out there, everyone who's watching this, we do appreciate each and every one of you for watching and listening to this. So just like he was super excited that Ray was his one subscriber and he got to meet Ray, we would love to interact with you guys. So put some comments down below. How many episodes of our show have you ever checked out?
There you go.
Do you want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, why don't you kick off predictions?
Okay. So we know going into this next movie that we're gonna have the older cast is gonna come back in what seems like a much larger role, which I'm really glad to see. One thing I kind of wanted more of them out of this movie. I do like that they kind of talked to Ray a little bit early on, but it's more about just kind of convincing him that what they're saying isn't bullshit. And then of course Venkman and Winston coming at the end too is just really great. But obviously I want more Winston because I just I feel like Winston deserves a little bit more like the forefront when it comes to like the old Ghostbusters. And of course I think they kind of established that with like what he's gone through since the last movie, of course. So we're getting a good setup for that. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing like what the actual main team is going to be. I would say, like, is it going to be a combination of old and new? Is it them passing the torch to Phoebe and Trevor and all these the younger kids?
Podcast.
Yeah, podcast. Is podcast can be like the new member as well. So yeah, I'm excited to see how that's all going to go. And it's also it's a fresh story, right? Because they're not harkening back to like an old villain. It could be a fresh villain. The Frozen Empire thing just seems like really cool. The Ice Age thing, and a good little, again, the mix of the practical and CG effects in the trailer looks pretty awesome. So I'm excited to see like if they can up the scale and just kind of make it more like this movie.
Yeah, definitely. I like that we got like, the very end of Afterlife and the post credit scene and stuff like that. We had, the explanation that, Winston is kind of keeping everything together behind the scenes type of thing. Like he's paying for the Ray's bookstore and you know what I mean? He's paying for the firehouse and everything like that. So
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see because I mean we've got a lot of interesting scenes to unpack from the trailer of Frozen Empire and stuff like that. So we already kind of know like there's a special like there's a new lab and stuff like that. So I'm wondering now if the new group is in New York because Winston is now setting up new teams to be trained. Because I keep saying, if this goes well, if this movie goes well, we can expand this. We can expand this to series. We can expand this to other movies that aren't taking place in New York City. We can even have like an international movie where they go over to the UK or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm really interested in like what they're going to try to set up for the future. Not that I want this whole movie to just be a preview of, what we could do type of thing with other movies, but just laying kind of breadcrumbs and stuff like that, where I think like I'd be really interested to see, Winston like developing new tech and that's why they have the lab and Winston brings everyone in. That's why we see, even like Paul Rudd's character, holding like a proton pack and wearing like the new jackets and stuff like that. We'd see everyone suiting up because I think Winston understands that if Ghostbusters are going to continue in universe, not even in our universe, in universe, then they need to train other teams. They need to train other members because they are all getting old type of thing. So right. I think he's got the planning and I want to see him lay the breadcrumbs for like future franchises of Ghostbusters in universe, future franchises of Ghostbusters. But I'd be really interested to see, if that is one of the plot points. Is that's why everyone came, and it's not just like Phoebe, her mom, and her brother type of thing, because they're pretty much the only ones who really have a connection to the original Ghostbusters because of Egon. You know what I mean? Yeah. But they make a point to show everyone suiting up in the trailer. So I'm like, maybe Winston really is like planning for the future, and that's kind of I'm hoping that's kind of a big plot point is where because maybe we can even see Oscar.
Freaking Oscar, man.
Maybe we can get an Oscar sighting. That's all I'm saying. And maybe he can be leading another team. And like maybe Oscar like works in New York City and then, Phoebe's team goes to the West Coast or, the sky's the limit. I just think it's really interesting. I'm really excited. I can't wait. And we will be right here recapping Frozen Empire after we get to see it. Cannot wait for that. I did hear that, with Frozen Empire, because just like you were saying, there are connections obviously to the past because we're going to have the original Ghostbusters members there. We're going to have, the original Firehouse and Slimer's in it and stuff like that. Like we're going to have some returning stuff. I did hear that it's kind of closer to the real Ghostbusters cartoon series, like where they're incorporating like different villains and stuff like that. And there might have even been a Frozen villain in one of them. I know I watched the cartoon series, but I don't remember it too much. I never saw it. But I do. I mean, it was good. I remember that. Like it went on for a while. So I'd be interested to see if they took some stuff from that. And like I said, I remember watching that cartoon when I was really little because I remember Slimer being more of like the lovable nuisance type of thing. And that's where that came from, was from that cartoon. So like if they started taking some elements from that cartoon, like where Slimer is kind of just there all the time, that would be like those kind of elements worked. And it would be interesting to see those incorporated.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the cast list for the movie coming up, and I forgot that Patton Oswalt and Kumail Nanjiani both joined the cast, so I'm curious to see what their roles are going to be in this. And I see a Mr. Walter Peck character in here. Isn't that Dickless?
Yep.
Dickless is back, so we love that. And also Rick Moranis. I need Rick Moranis back. If you're going back to New York, Give me Rick Moranis.
Wait, that's what I was going to ask you, because the last time we were talking about Ghostbusters 2, we were talking about Ghostbusters Afterlife and who'd you like to see. Did you see the post-credit scene with Sigourney Weaver?
Yeah, and I was wondering where the hell Oscar was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
No
so
mention of Oscar anywhere. He's old.
so Dana and
Maybe he's
Venkman-
the Frozen Empire.
I mean,
Imagine.
never know.
I don't see her on the list, though. I don't see Sigourney Weaver on the list. I'm like, you just brought her in for a post-credit scene? You're not going to bring her back for a sequel?
but that's why I'm wondering if so they were like, hey, we showed some love to Dana in the post-credit scene or in a small scene in Afterlife, so now the surprise is gonna be Rick Moranis gets like suited up at the very end.
I hope it's not just a post-credit scene, though. I hope he joins up in like a big team up.
I mean, it would be perfect if he did, because I mean, we literally see everyone, including Janine, suiting up with proton packs and stuff like that. So there's
That's what
going
I'm
to be
saying,
like
a
a huge boss battle at some point at the very end. So
yeah,
like,
man, make it like Endgame, man. On your left, it's gonna be Rick Moranis
and Dana and Oscar
Yeah, exactly, and Slimer.
and Slimer
Everyone's
with a
here.
trap.
The whole
Slimer
party.
can throw out the trap.
There you go.
But anyway, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of Ghostbusters Afterlife? And even more importantly, what are you hoping to see in Ghostbusters Frozen Empire when it comes out in March? And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.